And we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Monday night BAM series. I'm super excited about tonight's guest that we have sharing our space over here with Danielle, um, Rachael Piocchini, Danielle Davidson. Oh, I was like, wait, I wrote your name wrong, but you wrote Danny. Um, so I'm super excited. We'll get into a little bit. Danielle's here to kind of share her experience, strength, and hope, and what her recovery journey has been like. But before we jump into that, how was your Christmas?
It was great. Yeah, I just broke some traditions by just stepping outside the box, spent time with my partner's family, um, was around people who were drinking. It was different, not like my normal type of living, but I spent time with people that meant a lot to us, and I was able to be around them while they drank and join a Zoom meeting instead of partaking, and it's just really cool that that's my life today. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mine was different. It was different for me. It was so different. Like I feel like I mean, you drive around and you're downtown a lot, and like downtown didn't have Christmas lights. It was so weird. Like just trying to get in the holiday spirit for me was hard. I'm like, I'm in Draper, so usually they spend a lot of money on all these beautiful lights, and the light, like, it shows how I didn't realize how much money lights cost. But I mean, we're struggling, and it was hard for me to get in the spirit. But I just stayed at my house and didn't really do anything. Need the garbage. All right. There's my dad. I'm on my thing. I'll do it in a minute. Um, my dad's doing the garbage right now.
That's awesome.
And so Christmas was weird. My family wasn't here. It's been, it's been weird. You just got over COVID, right? Like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
What was that like? Did your whole family get it?
I got it for sure. My partner thinks he may have had it a while before I did, but he tested negative, so there's no way of telling if he for sure did or did not have it. But luckily, nobody caught it from me. Thank heavens, because I was around people before I knew I was having symptoms or tested positive, and luckily none of them got it from me, and none of my family members did either. So that was lucky.
Yeah, it's scary. Like we don't know. Like we don't know. And for us as addicts, like it's really scary and for everybody else, but it's hard. So what's it been like for you? So you work in the treatment industry, you work at the Haven, you do admissions. So has that been hard? I mean, everything's changed. What is it like working in treatment, and like you're working from home now, aren't you, for the most part?
I started partially going back into the office a couple months ago, just like 2 days a week, just to kind of intermingle a little bit and get some, like, I don't know, it's just a different type of vibe when you're like in the office, and it's like brings it on. When you get used to working at home, it's like, you get used to like working a little bit and then not working for a little while and taking off and then working all night long. And then it's just, there's not a lot of consistency at home. And so it's nice to kind of get back in to the swing of the office every once in a while. Admissions at the Haven, I mean, we stay full pretty much. Yeah. But it has made things a little bit more difficult. Obviously, it's already difficult to get people to show up because, they got to get detox, got to get ready and really just take that step and that commitment to do it. But on top of that, now we're having to get them tested for COVID, quarantining. And so, yeah, it's just another step in the process, but we luckily haven't had any outbreaks or anything. So that's good.
I know you're like one of the only treatment centers that hasn't been on a full lockdown.
Wow.
I keep thinking that the Havens had their own, and I just haven't heard about it. But we all hear about them. But all of them, like everywhere, has had it once or twice. So you guys, I mean, that's lucky, just because that has to make things really hard alone. You know.
It's scary when we're serving the population we're serving. We're already dealing with at-risk populations, people that already have underlying medical conditions or poor immune systems or other illnesses or diseases, and then you just add the fear of COVID on top of that, and it's the last thing we'd ever want for any of our clients. But at the same time, I'm just kind of letting things take its course. I think we all just know it's only a matter of time till we all get it, but being precautionary as possible in the process.
Yeah. So you and I met. I'll never forget it. Like, I remember seeing you in the parking lot at the fellowship hall. I'm like, that's the girl from jail. And so I remember, like, I'll never forget. And I'm glad. I mean, it's not something to brag about, but I was like, wait a minute, because I remember we were chatting, and you were just started becoming pregnant. And if I'm not mistaken, that's kind of when you got out, was when your baby saved your life. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk more about that. But I remember seeing you in jail, and we had some weird convo of, bail money and use your pick. You're like, hey, come get my phone. It's a Google Pix phone, and we'll bail so and so out. And thank God my addiction had its grips on me, and I didn't come take your phone, because I probably would have if I wouldn't have been so out of it. But I just want to start it off and just say I'm super proud of you, because everybody knows how hard it is to be a mom and stay sober. For one, is hard, but you did your pregnancy in jail, and most of it, right?
I actually didn't even know I was pregnant while I was in jail. But I got to treatment from jail and found out that I was 5 months pregnant.
I remember you being pregnant in jail.
Yeah, I did. I thought I could be, and so I had them test me, but the pregnancy test in the jail said negative.
Oh, that's funny.
But I was technically pregnant. I just wasn't sure that I was yet.
Yeah, because I thought I remembered talking to you about it, but anyway. So I mean, you got sober. That's when you got sober, right? Was that jail stay, and you got out, and you've been doing really good ever since, and you're like 4 years close to, right? You'll be hitting your 4 years probably like right before summer, something like that.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. So tell us now. I mean, we can just kind of start off here, and like, you can tell us who you are, and we can kind of go into your story, and you can share however much, or I won't interrupt you at all. Like, let's hear about your story.
Okay. So my name's Danny. I identify as a drug addicted alcoholic because I work a program of Alcoholics Anonymous, but that's not my necessarily substance of choice, and or my problematic substance. And I remember when I first came to the rooms of AA, like I thought I was different because I was a heroin junkie, not like an alcoholic. And I thought I was like better than or worse than, or just had this ego that kept telling me I wasn't in the right place or I was different. And so I just started finding ways to identify with everybody, and that was a way to do that. Um, so yeah, born in the 80s in Northern Cali. I was born to addicted parents. My parents were strung out on heroin and crank the first few years of my life, and I was in and out of the foster care system during that time. And when we moved to Wyoming when I was about 6 years old, so that my parents could get sober. And while we were in Wyoming, they started working a program of Narcotics Anonymous. And we went they were about 2 years sober, and we went to a convention in Nebraska. It's like a camp convention type thing for the program for the region. And on the way home, we got in a car accident, and it killed my mom. And at that time was when my dad had started making these comments like, I hate God and God hates me, but that's okay because we're on the same page, and I believed in God, but that made sense to me because I was very resentful towards God for that. And so I just started adopting that belief as my own, and carried that with me for a long time. So I was 8 years old when she passed, and my dad suffered from mental illness, brain injuries, addiction his whole life. And so it was like I didn't really have like a parent, it was more like he was one of us kids, and we were all like just trying to live and survive together. And it was hard. And I just remember times where I would like when he was strung out, and I would steal his truck keys and his checkbook to try to go get groceries, and the check wouldn't cash because there was no money in his account. It's just rough stuff, stuff that having to call into work for him when he was dope sick, um, being sexually assaulted by his buddies that would come over and get loaded with him and stuff. And So it didn't take long for me to start rebelling myself and start stealing drugs from him, start doing drugs with him, and just shady shit. Just all about that shady shit at a really young age, and carried into my adulthood. Um, I had my first daughter when I was 18, and right after she was born, I was suffering from postpartum depression and got really hard into alcohol, and that's when I think I really was definite that I was going to be an addict. And when she was a year old, I decided to move to Utah for a guy, and because each one, I promised they were all the one, right?
Yeah. There's always a guy. There's
Yeah.
always a guy. There's always a girl.
Yep. So I moved here to be with him and brought my daughter with me, still in my alcoholism and doing other dabbling in other stuff, oxys, coke, stuff like that. And my daughter's dad took her from me. He was still in Wyoming, and gosh, I was the victim. I laugh about it now because the years I used over that shit and blamed him for, my addiction when it was very, very apparent that I was already there. But if I would have come to this conclusion of gratitude and realizing, what he did being a good thing a lot longer, maybe things wouldn't have spiraled as bad as they did. But so yeah, he's raised her ever since she was 3 years old. I haven't been in her life since, and she's now 13. So about 10 years now, I haven't got to see her. Um, and there's been a couple of times where I'd be in jail and he would file papers for termination of parent rights, and I would fight it, and then I would disappear again, and then it would happen again a few years later, and I'd fight it, and then I'd disappear again. And so this time around, being sober, um, there was like stints of sobriety. I had like a year at one point in time, and he was letting me talk to her on the phone, and then I disappeared again. And so this time around, he's been very, very cautious, and um, I get to talk to her on the phone every once in a while, but not nearly as much as I wish I could. Haven't got to meet her in person again yet. So I just kind of keep giving that shit to God, because when I try to run the show, things don't go well. What God is to me, I don't even know. I just use that word because it's just easier to describe like this something greater in this world that has a purpose for me that I don't know. So yeah, got into that relationship here in Utah with that gentleman who ended up, we had a very toxic, abusive relationship, and it went both ways. And then started dabbling in harder drugs, heroin, meth, coke, stuff like that, using with my dad, working in strip clubs, just very risque lifestyle. And took me to dark, dark place really, really quickly. There's probably handful of times where I've seen my dad put a gun to his head and have to watch my uncle take the gun away from him, or me have to be the one to break through the window to get in the house to take the gun from him. And just always really traumatic, just crazy, crazy stuff happening everywhere I turned. And this last 10 years, were just really the tip of the iceberg, and that's when I really started to go into being homeless, not really caring about who I hurt or who I affected, not caring about myself, my body, my health, nothing like that. And I luckily, um, not too long ago, throughout my addiction, Utah naloxone started becoming a thing. Dr. Jen Plum started getting her feet on the pavement in our community and getting naloxone known about and readily available to first responders and then to people on the streets. And it was really a godsend that that stuff was available for me, because I really shouldn't be here. The amount of times I've overdosed, it's really, really sad to think about the amount of times I've overdosed. And it was really cool because recently she asked me to be a part of the naloxone campaign, and in doing so, she called me one night just to tell me how when she was kickstarting the Utah naloxone, my dad was sober at the time and was there with her, helping her, like doing volunteer stuff to help out with the naloxone, and how he would make it a point to make sure that there was naloxone available at the places he knew I used to hang out at. And it was really emotional for me because he's not sober anymore, and and it's hard. But it's just really cool to know that there was people that I didn't even know looking out for me.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
emotional.
Yeah, no, of course, of course. Naloxone is like one of the best things kind of out there. And I think that we're like, while you're having your emotional moment, I'm going to talk for a second. We're so blessed here in Utah for Dr. Plum and for Utah naloxone because we have that blanket prescription that anybody's allowed to have it. We have the, that law now that if somebody dies from an overdose, you can call the cops and you can not get arrested because for so long, you hear stories and horrible stories of people leaving people they care about because they thought they were dead and you're afraid to go to jail. So she's done some beautiful work. And I mean, it's kind of actually really cool that your dad was a part of the onboarding of the program. I hope for your sake, I hope he gets his life back. My sister, my whole family, I relate. We relate, but my dad's 30 years sober now. But I mean, we grew up in a interesting home, to say the least.
Yeah, that Good Samaritan law, man. That's a really cool thing. And I think that the crazy thing is a lot of people don't even know about it.
I know.
So, luckily a lot of people are knowing about it. So that's helpful. But it's really sad that the amount of people that had to be lost to overdose before that became a thing.
Yeah.
Because of fear of incarceration, fear of getting charged, fear of all of these repercussions. And now it's less likely that people are going to get in trouble if they call to save somebody's life.
Yeah, I know. We're lucky to have that, and people are starting to respond, luckily, differently to addicts who make the phone calls, and there's more humanity in it, and there's more kindness in some areas. I mean, we still have a lot of work to go throughout the whole world on it, but there's been a lot of really good work done by a lot of good programs out here to break that barrier. So, we're sick people and we need help, So that's been pretty cool. Definitely, for sure.
Absolutely. And it that brings me to talk about my little sister who passed away from what is believed to be an accidental overdose of air duster. And that's how she passed away. And the sad thing is there's a lot of evidence to prove that there were other people there with her when it happened, and then they left her. And and this is in Wyoming, and I don't know that they have the same laws or anything like that, or how it all went down. There's really no telling. But it's just really sad, that there is that stigma, there is that sense of fear that people would rather run than save another person's life.
Yeah, and for those who are watching, there's a lot of options to get naloxone, and I'll come find the link and I'll pop it on here that you can get free naloxone or Narcan mailed to you from whatever state that you're in. If your state doesn't allow you to have it, there's a free naloxone link that I will put on, and it'll send you right to your house. You'll get 3 or 4 doses. It sends a training for you to watch because we're just at a point. There was that article, I don't know if you saw it last week, that said it's already at like 84,000 Americans have died from last October until last month, the beginning of last month or the end, whatever the numbers were, in less than a 1-year period of time, when the numbers have been going down because we have so much naloxone available. But because of the pandemic, we're already at 80,000 people when we went from 72,000 in 2017, where we had that big thing with the football field for the comparison, or 2018, and last year I think it was down to 68,000, and now we're already back up because it's a really scary time for a lot of people, and fear and anxiety, and there's been some really tainted drugs out there. I mean, just as far as street outreach goes, like I remember reading one of our groups out here, Soak to Hope, was doing in 1 week was 158 reversals. That's insane, for 1 week. And thank God we have Narcan available and
And
that
that's
they're
only
out
one
there.
that's only one small little part of the community that they're outreaching to. That's just
Right.
that's crazy. If you think about the whole, it's unreal.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the government here, I don't know if it's the government or who it is technically, but I mean, the fentanyl testing strips have been really, really helpful, and people not being afraid to go out and talk to people, and, all these different harm reduction groups that are out there doing stuff. So, I mean, hopefully this will help save it so people like your sister don't have to, oh, I'm going to cry even saying that. Oh, Jesus, die alone. That like choked me up a little bit, like while people are there and then nobody says anything. And we have tons of stories of those, people getting sober because that did happen. They're like, they left me for dead and I could feel myself overdosing and everybody left me. And it's scary. So I'm sorry your sister, had to go through that, because nobody should. That's horrible.
Thanks. I truly believe like that she died so that I could live, and I don't think she did that on purpose or anything like that.
Sure.
But I just believe that is something that happened in my life to give me more purpose to live, and it took me a little while to get sober after that happened. But yeah, the resources available today, they blow my mind. Like, I'm just so grateful to be a part of the community and a part of a recovery community and a part of just the whole part of the growth of what's happening in society around addiction and the stigma and the resources, the needle exchanges, the HIV and Hep C testing, the naloxone handing out, the Soap to Hope outreach. Like those things are so beautiful. Like, I don't know if I would have gotten sober sooner if those things were available when I got sober or not, but damn it would have helped,
Yeah.
to feel loved. And so I just love the work that everybody's doing. It really warms my heart a lot.
Yeah, we're lucky in Utah. Like, Utah has so many groups out there, like our groups out there, and there's Recovery Soldiers, which you're a big part of, and there's like so many outreach groups and support groups to help you on top of, the 12-step programs that are out there. So we're lucky to be in a county, let's call it. I mean, we have two counties that are Utah County and Salt Lake County and State Georgia have such great recovery. Like, you can get sober or clean or whatever we're calling it today, whoever's calling it, like, you have a good option. Whereas these other bigger states have one AA meeting, a week, so we're lucky here for sure.
Absolutely.
So tell us more about you.
So yeah, over those last 10 years in my pretty crucial like depths of my addiction, I ended up catching a shit ton of charges. I don't know how I didn't end up in prison. Like, it is a miracle that I didn't. There's many times where I very, very well should have. And I did felony drug court, and I completed the Haven program multiple times. And it just happened for me at the right moment this last time when I got arrested, right before I met you, and we're talking about the mutual person we know and how that conversation even began. But right before I got arrested, I was just sitting there in this freaking trap house, and this girl just like looks at the clock and she's like, it's 11:11, make a wish, and I'm like, something's got to give. Like, that's all I could think is just like, something's got to give. Like, I can't anymore. And I got arrested the next day, and I wasn't even mad about it. Like, I was very, very sick in there because I was doing a lot of stuff that quantities of things aren't good for my body, and my kidneys and my heart were failing from IV drug use. My legs were swollen, like this, like black and blue, the size of balloons, like no circulation in them. I would pee my pants constantly. My body was failing because I was failing my body. And so when I finally got in there that last time and went through those withdrawals, something just told me I was done. Like, I was trying to get out, trying to get bailed out, like the first few weeks, like that anxious, like, get me out of here type stuff. And then after, like, there was just like a calmness, and I just knew I was going to be okay. And so I called the Haven, and asked if I could come back there again. And my dad was reaching out to the Haven for me, and they're like, I don't know, like she's already been here a few times, and I'm just like, just please, please, just one more time, just give me a chance, and I can even give myself a chance. And um, the prosecutors were trying to send me to prison, and luckily the Haven agreed to take me back again. And at that time, um, it took a little while to get the legal defenders and the judge all on board, and I finally got to go back there and found out that I was 5 months pregnant with my little girl. And um, and I just made a decision to like do something different, to quit falling back on everything I always know, and to shut up and listen a little bit. And people in the recovery community held my hand. They loved me. People were waiting for me to come back that I didn't even know. There's people in the recovery community trying to plot with my dad to come kidnap me. And I was ducking and dodging from them worse than I was the bounty hunters, because I was ashamed. And then when I walked back in the doors, it was just like I'd never left. Like it was home all over again. And the women in their community, lots of women in the recovery community surrounded me and let me know it was going to be okay, because I was afraid. Like, I don't deserve to be a mom. Like, I'm not even a mom to the kid I already have, right? So that's just what's going through my brain. It's just like, I don't deserve this. Like, I'm going to screw this up. I screw up everything. I don't even know how to take care of myself. How am I going to take care of a baby? And there was just lots of people in the community that held my hand, that loved me, that provided me a baby shower, provided me with the things that I needed, to a crib, a stroller, like all the things that I would need, a place to live. Like I didn't have a place to live, and I was 8 months pregnant out of rehab, and there was no resources for housing within a month. Like I had nothing. I did not know where I was going to go. And people that I have known in my recovery and in my addiction both were sober and offered me to stay with them. And Nick and Ashanti. A lot of people are familiar with them. They're my brother and my sister. Like we've been family since 10 years ago when their little one was born, and we've just grown and went through the mud together and back up. And they helped me get on my feet. They helped me give me a place to stay. And I was able to give birth to her and not need any pain pills afterwards. And I just kind of just did it. Like I asked somebody to sponsor me, work the 12 steps, now take other people through the 12 steps. And that's what my recovery looks like. And I know a lot of people whose recovery doesn't look the same. And I love that we don't have to all have like one brand of like, this is what recovery looks like. Like we get to all just kind of be in love with each other and with recovery without having to put all these labels on there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I would be today without the women in this program and in the recovery community. I really don't know what I would do or where I would be today. It's really been a blessing. It really has. And then a few months after my daughter was born, I got a job at the Haven, being a cook. I started as a cook, and I just like kind of just busted my ass ever since and worked my way up, and went from being a cook to being a kitchen manager to being a peer support specialist to being an admissions coordinator, and like getting to do groups and like manage the functionality of the program. And it's just really cool to get to be a part of something that's so much bigger than me, that helped save me. And it's like a dream come true, really.
Yeah.
I get to do that for work every day. Like it's not even like a job.
Yeah. Well, you're like, and so for those who don't know, the Haven is one of our state. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a different type of treatment. It's not like your private pay treatment facility where you go in. It's 28 to 32 days. That's it. It's a state funded program, and it's more behavioral based, right? And teaching people how to really grow, because we can't really. I mean, most of us have been addicts for many, many years, and we need a lot more than 30 days to get our stuff together. Big time. Like we have to learn how to just communicate sober with people and to live our lives. And so the Haven's one of our favorite programs when we could get somebody in there, because that's what it's like to get someone in there, but it's awesome. I've been able to watch a lot of people grow in the last 3 years, from the Haven, and it's a beautiful program. And to have someone like you basically running it, and you've got good clinical staff, I mean, it's just a blessing all in itself. And now with the resources available for people to, like, here, for those who are in Salt Lake or aren't in Salt Lake, like, here, our state funded programs offer sober living vouchers if you go to one of the state funded programs. So we're really lucky. There's, I think, in Salt Lake 5 programs, or how many is in Salt Lake
that do the ATR vouchers?
Yeah.
There's quite a few of them. Basically, if they're a targeted adult Medicaid provider,
yeah,
and they can get a contract with ATR to do referrals for the sober living.
Yeah, because I think that it's 5 programs altogether that you have to complete, that, or maybe it's 7, I can't remember, but we've got a really good thing happening in Salt Lake County where people are set up to be able to get out of treatment, go into sober living. You have 3 months to get on their feet before they have to start figuring out what they're going to do, and they can, get readjusted in life without the stresses of, how am I going to pay for rent, and how am I going to go back to an environment that I was really sick in. And some people survive and do really well going back to their sick environment. Like, I know some people that I'm like, how the hell are you with Tweaker Sam and Joe at the dinner table every single night and you're 5 years sober? Because I could not do it. But some people can't. And so we're lucky that Utah offers these. I don't know how many other states do that, but we have a lot of really good resources, and lucky for you that, I mean, you probably have a better success rate of clients at least getting through outpatient now that they have a safe place to go to.
Right. And that's, again, like, the resources that are available. Like, I wish there was resources like that available when I got sober, but there just wasn't.
Right.
And it was like, you got out of treatment and you had like a week or 2 to find a job and start working on paying rent, or you didn't have a place to live. And now that collaboration with the Fair Credit Foundation and access to recovery and Medicaid providers just getting to kind of come in sync, and it really does. It sets people up for long-term success, because here you are, you do your, whichever program you go to, whether it's 30, 60, 90 days, 4 months, 6 months, they vary. It's basically more about your treatment plan and your goals and kind of getting there. And once you get there, then you have this access to these funds that will help pay for your rent while you find a job, while you're doing your outpatient, while you like you said, get on your feet, getting your social security card, your birth certificate, all of these things that are barriers for people in recovery, because it's nearly impossible to get all of those things if you don't have any of them. And so it's just really cool. And I am really blessed to get to preach about that kind of stuff to the people coming in treatment. Like, look what you get. Like, look at this really cool stuff that is available for you. And you could just see people get like excited for it. Like, really? Like, I can get that? Like, there's this kind of stuff available to me. And I just think it's really cool to watch that light come on for people, and watch people get excited for their life, because that's what we want, them to take back their life.
Yeah, no, we're definitely blessed to have really good resources. Like, half the reason why I do the things that I do today is because when I got sober, those resources weren't available. And it was like, I wanted so bad for so many years to find recovery and figure it out. But I had no idea, like, go to meetings. I had no idea that treatment was available. I had no idea you could have Medicaid and it would pay for it. And, I had no idea that there was actually a way to do it. And here in Utah, the resources available are phenomenal for somebody who is willing to, to take those steps. We're lucky. So you had your baby, and then what happened? So you get your baby, you got your job.
And then so I was kind of seeing this guy, and not kind of, I was dating somebody, and it wasn't my daughter's dad. And, cause he was still kind of in his addiction when she was born. And, when she was about a year old, we
I think we froze. So when Danielle comes back, she's frozen. She's going to tell us about how I'm excited because I don't know the story of how she met her fiance now. I just know that they've been together forever. And so I'm excited to hear that. Hopefully this will have her jump on soon. Usually when it freezes like that, a phone call comes in or somebody's phone died or something. So hopefully she will jump back on here in a minute. But for those of you guys who are just tuning in, we are here with Danielle Davidson. She's really awesome. She is a woman in long-term recovery. She has been a really big part of our recovery community here in Salt Lake, and it's been really fun to kind of get to know her. We have here we are. She's back.
Hi.
There she is. Good. All right, so it left off when you said you were dating your kid's dad.
I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Hold on. Yours is on mute. Can you hear me? No? Hold on. Unmute. Can you hear me now? I don't know how to do this. Unmute mic. Edit mic setting. I don't know. She might have to come back on. I don't know what it is. I think you're on mute. Hold on. I'm going to text her. Oh, wait. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. I was on mute and I'm like, I don't know how to unmute it or tell you.
No, I couldn't hear you and I was getting a lot of like backup noise. So
yeah.
Oh man. Let's see if this
is
works.
that better?
Yeah, I'm trying to turn on my headphones and see if that'll help. But that's way better.
Yeah.
Okay. So
okay. So my daughter's dad and I decided to try again when he was sober and kind of doing the deal for himself. And it was really cool how we did our recovery separate. Like he went to treatment, I went to my own treatment. We spent a lot of time apart from each other to realize like that something was still there between us, and we were able to try it out this time, but not being codependent. Because we started dating about 8 years ago in drug court, and of course that was against the rules. And so it just was very unhealthy from the beginning, and then we ended up in our addiction together, and then so now we've been able to be sober, find our way back to each other, raise our daughter together. We're gonna get married. I can't believe somebody wants to marry me. Like it's just so crazy to think about, but I'm really excited for it. And
I know you guys are the cutest couple ever. I love it. Like it's cute. Like it's just this cute little love story, and it's I think it's cute. But I didn't know that he was your baby's dad.
Thanks.
I was when it went frozen. I'm like, I don't know how she met her baby, how she met her fiance, and I'm so excited to hear it.
Yeah, actually, we were in drug court together, and I knew his brother. Like I used to like run around on the streets with his brother. And so I had met him once before, and then I ran into him in drug court, and we were playing softball together. And this is very inappropriate, but I told him one day at the softball game if he hit it out of the park, I would show him my boobs, and he did. So I did, and
and that was it. And
here
that
we
was
are
it.
8 years later.
That's
Yeah,
so
it's been a
awesome.
cool story.
I
We
love a
still
good
play
love
softball
story.
together. That's like our thing is softball and sober softball. We just have a blast doing that. Keeps us sober, keeps us connected, keeps us active. So it's really cool.
Oh yeah. What are some of like for inspiration? Like so now you're sober, you're like getting to be 4 years here soon, like 3 almost 4 years. Like, what are some of like the greatest joys that you have found in recovery? Like, is when we're in our rut, right? We don't believe that there's anything good that can happen to us. I mean, we know you have a baby. We know you're like have your dream job, which is awesome. But what are some other like really cool things that recovery has brought to you?
Some
I think
other
that
really
there's
cool
so
things
many
recovery
probably.
has brought to me. Yeah, absolutely. A few of those is like acceptance. Like I can just be. Like I can just be in a pandemic, in anxiety, in all of these things that happen on a daily basis. Like I can be and I'm okay. And that acceptance has brought me so much peace. Never in my life did I ever imagine I could ever live a life that didn't consume me daily with trauma and pain and fear and hurt and agony and all of these negative things that consumed me for so many years. And so that is one of the greatest gifts it's given me. Another thing it's given me is family. Like I don't have a lot of like immediate family. Obviously I have my dad, but he's not really in my life that's because of the life he's living. It's brought in me peace with my little sister's death. It's brought in me I have a little brother who's 7 years old now, 8 years old now, and he's younger than my oldest daughter. And I get to be in his life, and it's so cool. And with him came a little sister, because he's got a little sister, and they're like a package deal, and that is so rad, that I get to kind of just get to be there for them. And my sister who passed away, her little boy, I get to be in his life. I've rebuilt a relationship with my grandma, who I was estranged from for a lot of years because of my own choices, and she's just an angel. I love her so much. But I don't get to see my family doesn't live here really, so I don't get to see them often. But I've got my partner and his family, and then I've also got this recovery family that like there is literally 100 people at the drop of a dime. I could call 100 different people and they would show up for me. Like, and I'm broke down. Like, there's hundreds of people I could call at any time, and it's like we've got each other. Like, it's a family, and it's built on love, not blood, but love, and it's such a beautiful gift. It's such a beautiful gift to have, and to get to do that for other people. Nobody in a million years would call me for something, like, unless it was to hook them up with some drugs. You know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing I was useful for. And now like I serve a purpose to help people, and people know they can call me day or night anytime, and I'm game. Like I'm ready to, I'll show up, and I'm so blessed to get to do that.
Yeah.
I'm just really glad that that's something I can do on a daily basis.
I think that's one of the best parts of like when we start to get into recovery, like, when we're active in our disease, we're not dependable. We can't show up for ourselves. So how the hell are we going to show up for other people? I mean, you can kind of show up for the dope man if you can get there on time, but whoever gets there on time for that either, in my world, it was still 3 days later. It's like I was still going to get there, but I think it's so rad to have people that we can actually depend on, who understand our pain, who understand our past, who can empathize with what we went through and not be judgmental. Like we get to be around a bunch of misfits and a bunch of fuck ups and a bunch of assholes, and but people who, like you said, at the end, it doesn't matter what it is. Like if somebody says I'm struggling, I don't know why that just got me emotional too. I must be like getting ready to get on my period because everything's making me cry right now. Or it's just like or I just love recovery, and it's so beautiful because if your car breaks down, you have somebody you can call and say, hey, you guys, like my car broke down, or I don't have a gift for my kid for Christmas, or I don't know how I'm going to and it's not about money. It's just about people will show up for you and show you love that we didn't think existed, because we can't get sober because we're not worthy, and we're filled with shame and remorse and guilt, and nobody's gonna ever love me. And like you said, like somebody wants to marry you, and they do because you're an amazing human, but recovery brings that out of us. They're gonna start yelling at each other. Oh my gosh.
It
Yeah, I love
absolutely does.
recovery. I could like go off for hours just on like the good parts. Like, I mean, it has its bad times. We all know like hard days happen and death happens. And I mean, we've had a lot of overdoses just recently that have been super emotional, and then add COVID on top of it, and then go to a funeral and get COVID. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah.
so, it has been so hard to even, because we've seen a lot of people, I'm sure in your immediate circle, that people who, as soon as COVID came out, it was like, how did that guy just relapse? I mean, it's been hard, and people, we never would have saw it coming to. We had to not celebrate, but had to go through Christmas and not be able to reach out to them. And so maybe just as we kind of close this out for tonight, we could share on like, what would you say, um, when you first got sober, what was the most powerful advice somebody said? Like, those like catchphrases, or that one thing someone says like that was really meaningful, that kind of like changed the game for you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for sure. I would say like the cliche, like don't quit before the miracle happens. Like I love that because like we're all a miracle, like really to be walking and living like through some of the shit that some of us have been through that most people shouldn't ever have to see in a lifetime. I think that that's a miracle in itself, but don't give up before the miracle happens, but don't give up after it does either.
Yeah.
And then they say like, especially in like AA and stuff, they're like, keep coming back sober. It's like, well, keep coming back even if you're not sober, because that can save your life too, and keep you from being estranged or using alone or things like that.
So
Um,
now that you say that, I think that's something that's really common. And so if there's anybody who watches this and gets to the end and hears this part, who is in an active relapse and is feeling like, is it hard? I mean, we'll be real. Like, if you take a step, like you've gone through a few different stints of having to like come back and say, hey, dude, we've all said I'm sober when everybody in the whole freaking group knew you weren't.
yeah.
We have all done that. We've all said,
Yep.
disappeared. Not we have all, but many of us have disappeared and been afraid to come back to our circle, and been afraid to, because of shame, to own our own, own our shit, just so we could feel like it's okay to come back. So like, what would you say to the person who is active in their disease right now, who, and it doesn't matter whether they were in recovery before or not, like, it's okay to come back. Like, we're not going to judge you. Like, how do we touch that person? You know what I mean? Because I think that's the hardest part of coming back, is having to come to our group and admit, you know, I fucked up and I don't know how to stop. And, the people feel like, oh, they're going to judge me. And you won't. Everybody wants to say, oh, the recovery community is judgmental. No, we're not. Trust me, we're not,
There,
but
I mean, let's just be real. There are some people who are going to judge. Like there
yeah.
is. I used to be one of those people, and I think the biggest thing for me was just putting that pride aside and not caring about the people that judged, and instead focusing on the people that loved. And the people that judge, they weren't my people. The people that love me, those are my people that were going to support me. And so just knowing that there may be some of both, but find the people that are going to love you and support you no matter what, and tell it to you raw and keep it real with you, and find those people and navigate towards them, um and ask for help, because there's so many people in this community and there's so many people struggling, and if somebody doesn't reach out and say I'm struggling, like we may never know. And so I think the biggest thing for those people is to know they have to speak up. Like it's hard, and I know it's hard, like I've been there, but you have to be able to speak up at least to one person that will do something to try to help, or at least just listen. But if you don't, then we may never know. I just lost one of my softball team players, to an overdose a couple, just last month, and we didn't know he was suffering. He was suffering in silence, and we didn't even know it. And And I can't help but wish I would have known or reached out to him to know he was struggling to help. But I can't carry that weight, obviously. But if we don't speak up, we nobody will know we're hurting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing to get out there is, recovery we don't get sober overnight, and it's a process, and you don't just wake up and be like, okay, I'm sober in 5 years and here comes 5 years. Like, it's a process, and it's starting the process and maybe trying one day and it not working and then trying again 3 days later and, trying it again. And if you have to go to rehab 10 times, go to rehab 10 times, but like, don't give up, because eventually, like, don't give up before the miracle, because the miracle does happen. And some people are really lucky and they don't have to go through a relapse, which is really awesome. Like, I know a couple of people who that's their story, and I'm like, that's so rad. That was not my story. Like, I've been trying to get sober since 2007, and but finally I have, good lengths, 3.5 years of recovery, because I finally was like willing to tell people how I was feeling and go through the emotions and not pretend like I could do it all myself. And I think that's the scarier part, but it's also a really humbling, beautiful part, because people really want to help you, which I didn't know. I thought people were going to laugh at me. And we get through trauma of all these people who have trust issues. You don't live on the streets and trust everybody who comes in front of you. And so it gets hard, but we're blessed too. Yeah, like, we come in broken. So is there anything else that you want to touch on before we shut out for the night? A message or anything?
No, just thank you for what you and your organization are doing for the community. It's really cool to get to watch. I wish I could be a little bit more involved into like independent, particular parts of the community that are going above and beyond to outreach and to support people and try to give people referral sources and stuff like that. And so it's just really amazing what you guys do, and thank you. And
Yeah, thanks.
and everybody that's on your team, like, it's just really amazing, and I'm grateful that our people have you guys. It's really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I know, it's like, finally the recovery community for me is a safe place, but we created that with so many great people like you and other groups. And so I'm grateful for you and the work that you do, and that we're able to like send people to you and save lives. Like, it's such a beautiful big old circle of just awesome, and I'm grateful for. So I won't keep you on for the night because I know you have your baby, but thank you so much for joining us tonight. I love you. I appreciate you. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, whatever it is now. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to
Thank
end
you,
it.
babe. Good night.
Yep.